Once you move to the next step, which is the conversation, what this might look like in terms of format is the most traditional type conversation would be an appointment. So interaction step, if you cold call, do cold outreach with a cold call or cold email, then the next step might be to schedule an appointment. And that appointment is the conversation step. So it can be an appointment face to face, could be an online meeting, could be meeting someone for coffee, a drink, food, meet for lunch. It could also be an extended cold call. So your conversation could be a phone appointment on another day, but it could be where you cold call someone in the interaction and then you end up talking to them for 15, 20 minutes. It could also be the conversation could be meeting someone at an event. So maybe you meet someone for the first time in the interaction step, and then you at let's say a networking event, and then you end up sitting down and talking to them for a little while, and that might be the conversation. So meet someone at an event. Now, the goals are slightly different in the conversation step. So this is where we move beyond pre-qualify. Pre-qualify was, does it even make sense to talk? Well, this is where you're talking. So we've already determined, hopefully, that it makes sense to talk, and we're talking now. So now we want to do more firm, harder qualifying, which is, let's see, does this person really need what I sell? Does this person have any authority to make decisions? Is there budget? Again, we will talk more about qualifying later, but this is where you start to try to qualify the prospect. And you always, at all of these steps, you want to build interest. But this is where at the interaction step, you were just building enough interest so that the prospect was interested in talking. Here's where you try to build interest in the prospect wanting what you sell. And you're still not really trying to close the sale because you still have to explain what you sell. And that's the next step. So you're just trying to close for the explanation. Those are your goals. The structure to this starts to change. So now the structure of this conversation is a bit longer than the interaction, could be anywhere between 10 to 60 minutes. And notice that the interaction step, it was all about the prospect and then a little bit about us right before we go for the close. Now we're trying to do half and half. So the balance is starting to flatten out. So it's half on the prospect and half on you or your product. What that might look like is, let's say you show up for a meeting. Could be online meeting, could be in person. The way that I recommend you structure this is that you make the first half of the meeting all about the prospect. So you're asking a lot of questions and learning about them, and then you spend the second half of the meeting talking about you and how you can potentially help them. And in order to get the prospect talking and to get that first half of the meeting on them, you're going to have to ask good questions. And so the questions are slightly the same as the interaction, where we have your pain questions, current state questions, and we also have your qualifying questions because now we're trying to qualify the prospect. So we're adding more questions. By the way, those questions might look redundant with the interaction, that we also had the same pain questions and current state questions. We're not necessarily asking the exact same questions that we would have in the interaction. The way that usually will look like is your script and your list of questions to ask, you might have 5 to 10 pain questions and 5 to 10 current state questions. There's no way you're going to ask all of those in the interaction step. So this is where you pick up any that you did not get a chance to ask, which there will most likely be a lot because the interaction step should be really quick and fast and short. Or you could certainly ask some of those questions again, but the goal here for the conversation is to close for the explanation.